to Veteran Voice. I'm Larry McCullaugh, be your host today. We've got a couple of guests today that are going to be with us to talk about the upcoming Veterans Day Parade. On my right, I've got Mr. Ted Pace. He is the chairman of the Veterans Day Parade Committee. Ted, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And Cindy Byrd, isn't it?
Yes.
I've known you for so long, I just always called you Cindy. She represents the D.A.R. and is also a member of the Veterans Day Parade Committee. Cindy, thanks for coming on the program today.
Thank you.
Ted, why don't we start by talking a little bit about what Veterans Day is? I know sometimes people get Veterans Day and Memorial Day confused. So if you don't mind, why don't you fill everybody in on what Veterans Day is about?
Okay, it would be my pleasure. And let me refer to some notes I jotted down here just to make sure I get it correct. But on November the 11th, 1918, an armistice was signed that ended World War I. And as a result of that, in November of 1919, President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed Armistice Day to honor the veterans who had died in World War I. And this went on for several years, and somewhere in the, excuse me just a minute here, and in 1938, Congress actually passed a bill that each November the 11th would, as they put it, shall be dedicated to the cause of world peace and hereafter celebrated and known as Armistice Day. Then at the end of World War II, it became apparent that a lot of the living soldiers that had no remaining interest in World War I or they weren't involved in it, so the veterans groups got together and made an effort to change it to Veterans Day instead of Armistice Day. And the purpose of this would be to honor all veterans who had fought in any war, not necessarily died, but who had fought in a war. And this was in fact changed to Veterans Day by act of Congress on May the 24th, 1954. It was signed by President Eisenhower. And again, it was changed to honor all servicemen of all wars, not just World War I. So again, the distinction is Veterans Day is the day to honor all who had fought in any various American wars, where Memorial Day is the day to remember those who actually died in the nation's defense. In recent years, in all practicality, though, we've I won't say reduced, that's the proper word, but we have made Veterans Day, where basically today we honor all veterans, period.
And that's mainly the difference. Some people, young people, don't see the difference in it. But this is like what I like to refer to as our day. You know,
it is indeed our day.
It's a day where we can get together and share some stories and have some camaraderie. And then Albert Jones started the parade back in, oh gosh, it's been 94, 95, I believe, maybe 96. I can't remember the day before yesterday, so.
Well, I'm just going to wait. It's been several years now, but Albert did in fact start it. I say he started, he restarted it. We had one Veterans Day parade in years gone by, and then for some reason it ceased to exist for a number of years. Albert basically reinstated it. It's been in effect ever since, and I hope that it will be in effect as long, for eternity, in fact, you know. But we always attempt to have it at 11 o'clock on November the 11th, on Veterans Day itself. This year, Veterans Day falls on Sunday, so as a result, we're going to have it on Friday, November the 9th, still at 11 a.m., but just not on exactly the 11th, and because on the Sunday, people being involved in church and so forth, and we thought it was more practical to have it on Friday.
Yeah, the 11, 11, 11, I know is the easiest way to remember that. It's the 11th month, the 11th day at 11 a.m. is, if I'm not mistaken, that's when the original armistice was signed.
That is correct.
Back in World War II. And I know that the committee's always tried to keep that. And I know that, if I'm not mistaken, the last time it came around on a Sunday, it was a leap year, so we didn't have to worry about that. It kind of skipped from a Saturday to a Monday, but the committee had to deal with that this year with it falling on a Sunday.
Well, you know, it would come up every 7 years under normal circumstances, but I guess when you factor in a leap year, that will change it a little bit, sure.
Tell us a little bit about the parade this year and about how many entries you've got and what all we've got going this year.
Okay, we until just this week we had some concern about the routing of the parade. You know, if you remember the Labor Day parade, we had to go down Jefferson Street and jog off a little bit back to Broadway because of a building collapse on I guess in the 300 block of Broadway. And then there was some concern about perhaps there was going to be some construction going on at the Arcade Theater. But in the end, we've made the decision that we're going straight down Broadway, just like we have in the past, which is a decision I applaud. That's the way I prefer to do it. And it'll start there at the gazebo at 2nd and Broadway, and I'll go to 17th as it always has. This year, to the degree that I'm involved, I'm in charge of getting the color guard together, and I'm going to try to slow this parade down. I'm going to try to have a cadence that makes it a pleasure rather than an endurance test. See, sometimes it's gotten a little fast in the past, and you know, the thing is supposed to be fun. That's what it's all about. So I'm going to ask this color guard to step off at a fairly slow cadence and everybody enjoy it and hope it works out in that respect.
In other words, we're not going to be in a hurry. We're going to enjoy ourselves.
Well, I'm hoping so. As far as the entries, so far we have 24 entries, and that was as of a meeting we attended just yesterday. We have 5 schools that are going to be there with some 1,100 children that will be sitting along Broadway at various spots. We have 4 bands that will be participating, and lots of flags will be passed out, and I think the park department has a policy they would prefer that candy was not passed out, but I don't see it happening that way. You see, normally candy is passed out and we walk, and I know that ever since Albert reinstated the parade, I've walked in every one of them, and I've handed candy out, and it's something I enjoy doing, and I understand that they don't want you throwing it from the floats and all, because the children will run out if you're not careful. So in each float, you need kind of a couple of point people to keep the little kiddies back and hand out the candy and so forth. But I suspect we'll be doing the candy thing again. I enjoy it, and I suspect I'll be walking in, and I'll be walking as long as I'm able to.
That's great. That's great. Cindy, let's go to you for a minute. I know that the Daughters of the American Revolution, D.A.R, have been involved in this starting the 2nd year, I believe.
That's
and
correct.
You all have always sponsored an essay contest.
Yes.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about that, about the ages that are involved and what kind of things you're looking for?
Well, the committee started the essay contest the very first year, but the D.A.R. got involved the 2nd year. I think they were not going to have the essay contest, but we encouraged them to continue because it's an education process for the students. And when you read them, you understand what they are learning. This year, the theme was honoring America's veterans. So the ages were kindergarten through 2nd grade to draw pictures this year. No writing for that age group, and I believe that encouraged that group to grow, because we had 85 in that contest, and we've only had a dozen or so in the past in that age group. And then we have 3 through 5 that write a 100 or 150 words, 6th through 8th grade, and a 9th through 12th grade. Those are the different categories.
So do you have is it the same theme for each category?
Close. We asked the 9th through 12th to write my role in honoring America's veterans, so that they bring it into their own, what they can do. But the others, we asked just how could I honor? And the little students that draw, we just said honoring. How could they honor? So we try to make it so that they can do it based on their level.
Something that's going to be personal to them that they can convey.
Yes.
Well, how many entries did you have this year?
383.
Real, that's almost 400 then.
Yes.
That's
yes.
outstanding, isn't it?
We had 400 one time before, but that was right after 9/11. And always, other than that, we've had 200 or around 200.
Well, how do you get the participation that you do? Do you go to the schools and talk to the teachers or the students, or? Well,
the Parks Department really does that. They send a little flyer out to all the schools, and they actually send them enough out for the school to just give them to every student, so that the teachers don't even have to make copies. So actually the Parks Department gets the drums up the business, you might say, and they receive the essays, and we just pick them up and return them, and they also return them to the students.
Yeah, and that's something Lori Blunt couldn't be here today,
Yes.
but that's where the meetings are held, and the Parks and Recreation officer are really involved in this. I remember when I was on the committee, a lot of times the fellows on the committee would make the decisions, and it was like, handle it, ladies, and the Parks Department
That's
works very
right.
hard to see that that I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and all that kind of
That's
thing.
correct, they do.
Now, have you got? I understand you've got a couple that some of the entries that you brought today that you might want to share with the audience.
Well, yes, it was suggested at this last committee that people don't get to experience these essays because only 12 of them are actually honored and put in the newspaper out of nearly 400. That's not very many. So we're going to try to publicize more of them this year, and because we're here, we wanted to show you some of the pictures that have been drawn. And these are, remember, kindergarten through second grade. I don't know if you can see them, but they were just supposed to write something about honoring veterans. So you can see that this one says, "Thank you for my freedom," and this one says, "I love the vets," and this one has maybe letters that you could send. You don't really know what all they're thinking. Cheers for our veterans. This one I like because it says, "Will you perfect the world?" And this one at the bottom seems to be showing the Veterans Parade, that's a one way they can honor veterans, by going to the parade, and they do that. So these are just some of the many things that they have drawn in that category. And like I said, you don't know what they're thinking, but this one wrote in crayon on the back what they were thinking. So you can't really tell, but it's two little tombstones and a flag, and the student says, "This is a picture of somebody looking at the graves and American flag. It reminds me to remember the people who died for our freedom. The American flag reminds me to respect the people who have died for my and your freedom." So that's a little second grader and what they were doing. So you get an idea of what they were thinking and what they've been learning too.
No, I know that a couple of our members went to a school not too long ago and did a little presentation on flag etiquette and stuff, and then the students wrote several letters. I think there were probably 25 or maybe 35. And they all had pictures also. And we've got the letters hung up at the VFW post there for the people to read. And a lot of them are fairly close. I think they might have had a little bit of coaching, but they really did enjoy seeing the proper etiquette of the flag and stuff,
Right.
which is what we need to do is teach
right.
the young people the proper way to handle the flag and the do's and don'ts of the American flag.
Right.
Now, did you also have any essays parts of essays you wanted to read or anything?
If you would like,
Sure.
I have plenty. And that is a part of their education. I mean, if they have to write something, they have to think through it. So it is good to have them write these essays. And so what I would like to do is just pick out some of the interesting things they have written, because sometimes they all say the same thing. They just write something. But some of them come up with something different. So this is 9 through 12. Okay. These students say, "Not enough teenagers do their part in honoring American veterans." This one says, "Honoring American veterans is very important and often forgotten. We often take our rights for granted. We need to use the rights that our veterans fought to keep." And this one says, "Every time I open my Bible, publicly agree or disagree with government, choose my own career, or travel safely in my own country, I can thank an American veteran, American soldier." And then they list ways that they can do that, and one of them being listening to their stories. So that's what some of the high school students wrote. And you might think that's really good, but listen to what some of the 7th graders wrote. "Veterans can be honored in many ways. I narrowed them down to 2 ideas I think that I could do the best. My first idea to honor these veterans is to make them red, white, and blue buttermilk pies. I like to think that the pies symbolize all of these American veterans. The red, white, and blue crust symbolizes their bravery and honor. The ingredients symbolizes how different the veterans are and their ability to come together as if they were one and work as a team." Isn't that interesting?
That's a 7th grader?
That's a 7th grader.
My goodness.
Here's another 7th grader. "Veterans are open books of knowledge. Veterans were once our age. Veterans have many stories to tell. They can tell you firsthand what war is like. Veterans are like trophies of our country's past. They show our courage. Veterans have feelings like you and me. Our country has changed, but our veterans have not. Isn't that interesting?
That's pretty impressive for 7th grade.
That's right. Well, we kind of like these little 3rd and 5th graders too, because they are very, very interesting. Here's a couple of very nice ones from the 5th grade. Thank you for your sacrifice to give me freedom. Some of our veterans have been presented with medals, memorials, and parades. Unfortunately, the tombstones of the men and women who fought in wars long ago have begun to deteriorate. One way that I could honor the veterans is by recording their tombstone information before their data is lost.
That's
something.
Yes, it is. That's amazing for a young child.
And they have to think up all this stuff, you see, and that probably their teacher didn't talk about that. Here's one that's my personal favorite, and I think several. These are not winners. We haven't judged these yet. These are just interesting ones. How could I honor Americans' veterans? That is a very big question. Can one small person make a difference? Well, I think they can. My papa is a veteran. He fought for our country. I will never know what he was like back then, how strong he was, how he fought for me before I was even born, or what all he did when he was there. I know him now, though, and he moves a little slow. He has gray hair and a squishy belly. Is that what a veteran looks like? Well, I've learned it doesn't matter what he looks like now. It matters that he has a brave heart, a heart that is not selfish, a heart that wants to make the world a better place.
That is very flattering to any veteran that would hear
Yes.
that. That's
Yes.
good.
And Laura is trying to work on possibility for us to maybe display some of these around the city somewhere because no one ever gets to see them. So we're going to try to pick out some of the best from each category and display them perhaps the week before Veterans Day.
That would be wonderful. That'd be great. Well, I'm glad that you've got this program going the way that you do and you're having the response that you do.
Yes.
Well, Ted, we know that the parade's going to be at 11 o'clock. It's going to be on the 9th, and the route's going to be down Broadway to 17th Street. Are there other functions that are going on during that day or that evening that you know about that you like to share?
Well, we need to point out that the essay judging is at 10, is it not? Or it's an early hour before 11?
At the gazebo at 10:30, they
Okay.
begin giving the prizes,
Okay.
the awards for the students.
All right. And then there's going to be downtown, there will be some hot chocolate and coffee and things provided for other people, snacks of sorts and so forth.
That will be around 10.
That'll begin around 10 and around the gazebo. So we certainly want to get that timing involved. We don't want people to think that nothing starts until 11 o'clock, okay, the actual parade. On that same afternoon at 2 o'clock, and now we're not getting this other show now, are we, when we talk about this?
No, we can go ahead and
Okay.
say just it's going to be going
There
on.
is going to be a dedication ceremony for the new World War II memorial, which is in Dolly McNutt Plaza on the east side, I guess, facing City Hall. And it's already in place, and it's a very impressive monument. I understand some of the bricks, perhaps, I know some of them have been received, the individual bricks that people have bought. How many of them have actually been placed, I don't know, but Hardy Gentry said last night that there was a number that had been ordered, and there's another number ordered, so I don't know their status. But apparently the brick sale is going quite well, and so that will be an event worth attending. And both the American Legion and the VFW will be having lunch after the parade. So from my perspective, and well, certainly you as commander of the VFW, I hope will agree with this, is basically open to the public, and anyone who would like to come by for I don't know, I won't say an elaborate meal, but a meal, well, please feel free to stop by. So it's going to be a full day, lots of things going on.
Well, if they're veterans, anything that we give them, they'll be happy with, as long as they're not sea rats or coming out of them MREs, is it, meals ready to eat, you know. we'll have something I think they'll probably enjoy. Now, how about the musical tribute? Is that going to be on Friday night, or are you hooked into that very very deeply, or?
This is George Begoris's thing primarily, but it's going to be on Saturday night.
Okay.
And it's going to be at the Heartland Worship Center, and I think at 7 o'clock. And I've been to it many, many years, and it's a wonderful program. It truly is, and I'm disappointed that our veterans organizations are not better represented there. But it's a great program, and I put it in our news bulletin this time. So hopefully it might generate some interest. But yeah, if you can attend, you certainly ought to. And it's normally 40-ish type music, you know, and what the older generation, including myself, likes. And so it's a great program. Attend if you can. And
actually, I guess we get to make a whole weekend, a Veterans Day weekend out of it, since it falls on Sunday, and we're going to have the parade on Friday, and then the musical tribute on Saturday, and some veterans will probably have some time to spend with their family or some other veteran friends of theirs on Sundays. So we're going to make a three-day party out of it, I guess.
Full weekend of it, and I think it's going to be a great one. And we hope the weather holds out, not like yesterday, for example. But if it's a good day, we'll have good attendance. And you know, one we've discussed in the past, and it doesn't apply this year, and because well, it does apply from the standpoint of the parade. You know, Veterans Day usually falls on a school day, and there's an old complaint among the veterans organizations, and I continue to support it, that the children, at least in McCracken County, are not let out of school on that day. It is a federal holiday. There are other federal holidays in which the children are let out, and I just do not think it produces a proper respect for the veterans that it should have. Now, a lot of them will be there because they schedule it as a field trip, so they kind of sidestep the issue to a certain degree. Nevertheless, this is a should be an optional thing. You should be able to come if you choose to. The kids should be out of school on that day, and feel very strongly about it.
I know that we run into that same thing some years on Memorial Day. If they have days that they've missed because of snow. I know in the past that there have been times that some students have had to attend school on Veterans Day, on Memorial Day. And I know that doesn't sit very well with a lot of veterans. If there's anything that they should really learn to do, it's to pay respect to the men and women who have lost their lives defending the freedom of this country. And I know that we've talked about that for a year, and we've contacted it. I think that it ends up pretty much being at the option of the particular area, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember. It's been several years since I read the paperwork on that, but we were hoping that one of the representatives or senators at the state level would maybe get something passed to where they could make that mandatory day off. But we have not made any progress on that, actually.
Other than McCracken County, I don't know much about it, but I do know McCracken County does not have that policy, and it's one that I strongly disagree with.
Well, let me go back to Cindy for just a second. We've only got about 5 minutes left here. How do you judge so many, almost 400 essays and stuff? I mean, how many ladies do you have involved in reading those, and what kind of a process do they go through? I would imagine it's fairly time-consuming.
Well, it can take a lot of time, but we usually have quite a few ladies that come. We'll have anywhere from 10 to 25 people that come, and we have, what you do is when you're reading these essays, some of them, they say the same thing over and over again because some of them just do it as what the teacher tells them, so they have to. So we can just disqualify quite a few because they have no originality or creativity in them. And so that part is easy. But then when you get down to the last 15 or 20 that are very good, then we'll have several people read them, and we have a little criteria that we go by, and part of it is to look for the originality and the creativity and not worry too much about the spelling, because you're not going to get good spelling for some of these. They're handwritten, a lot of them, and And so they don't spell quite right, but that's
I
okay.
wish
We
I had
don't
more,
care.
I wish I had more teachers that didn't count so much on spelling when
Right.
I was younger, actually.
Well, we do when we get to the final. When you get to when you only have 5 or 6 and you can't choose, then you look at things like, well, can they spell? Are they following the theme the way it's supposed to? Because some of them just ramble. They don't follow a theme. And those you can say, well, they didn't qualify really. So it actually becomes easier as you do it. The more often you do it, the more often you can just say, these followed the theme. They did it with originality, creativity, like the buttermilk pies, and getting the data off the tombstones. Those are unique ideas. They probably didn't talk about those in class, but some of the others will just put down what the teacher talked about, and that's it. So that's why it becomes easier as you go along.
And those awards will be given out Friday morning at 10:30 down by the gazebo. That'll
Yes.
kind of start things off, and then the parade kicks off at 11 o'clock.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, we're down to about 2 or 3 minutes. I always seem to get to the end of a program and find out there's something that we didn't cover, and it's too late once the program's over. Ted, is there anything that you want to add or would like to say, or anything that I might have missed? Or
No, I just I want to talk to Cindy and find about their source of all these entries. You know, we have a similar program in the VFW and essay contest, and we have nowhere near that many entries. So we need to find out what they're doing right and follow the lead there.
we may have to kind of corner her sometime
Yeah,
and see if we can convince her to give up her sources, so to speak.
It's the Parks Department. They do most all the work. We don't really actually do anything except judge them. We don't really, we help give out the awards, but the city actually gives the awards also. So we just here as a service to help.
Let me say a little bit on what you initially said there. I've only been to 4 meetings now, and certainly we, as a collective group from the Veterans Group and the D.A.R. and so forth, we have some input and we offer suggestions and we offer advice. But it's the Parks Department people who actually do the work.
That's
You know, they do the hit the ground work.
Yes.
And Lori Blunt, Pat Earls, Mark Thompson, these people, they are the ones that get the job done. They do it for us. And
That's right.
I went to a meeting the other morning that involved all the agencies in Paducah, the departments that are involved in this thing. And it's not just the Parks Department involved. There's, you know, traffic control, there's electrical outlets here and yon. There's just many things involved to make this thing work. So there are a lot of people in the city that do a good job, and they do it for us, and we appreciate it.
And we do need to thank the city for allowing the parade to continue every year. And,
Absolutely.
Yes.
and again, like you say, Parks and Recreation does an outstanding job. Well, I want to thank both of you for coming on the program today. Hopefully this will generate a little more interest, maybe get some more people out to watch the parade.
Yes.
And with a little luck, maybe get some more veterans to come on out and say, hey, I got nothing else to do, and let's just go down and get in the parade today.
Well, let's hope so.
We're inviting all veterans. We hope that they'll come out.
Yes.
So if you can, don't forget to get downtown and see the parade on the 9th. If I'm not mistaken, you can watch it at home on Channel 2 live, but we'd much rather see you down there waving a flag. So thank you all for coming out today. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Veterans Voice.